Hi everyone. Doing a quick summary on chapter 15, A God Buys Us Cheeseburgers. Now the assignment for this chapter is to do a graphic. So hopefully you follow closely to find some good quotes and think about some possible symbols. As I go through the chapter, I'm going to read a few things from the book as we go, but it's a lot of stuff happening in this chapter, and it is quite the long chapter. One thing I've noticed doing these summaries is how they're keeping track of the dates pretty good. So we're now at June 14th, 7 days from the summer solstice. So it's close, and they're not even in LA yet. So if you think you have to find the underworld first, you've got to do some exploring and find the master bolt and then somehow get back. So 7 days is cutting it close. So they stop at a car wash in Denver, and they do something called iris messaging. And Iris is the goddess of rainbows. So they spray some water, and if you've ever done that, you could even do it now, it's warm out. Spray some water from a hose, you'll see it might be a little spectrum of light creating a rainbow. So that's their way of communicating with Camp Half-Blood and hoping just to see how everything's going and let them know that they're okay. So Percy's contacting Camp Half-Blood, and he's hoping to get Chiron, but fortunately Chiron's not there, but Luke is. And interesting conversation takes place. So Luke was close by, and he started talking to Percy. So Chiron had to break up a fight. Luke shouted to me over the music as a loud car came into the next stall. Things are pretty tense here, Percy. Word leaked out about the Zeus Poseidon standoff. We're still not sure how, probably the same scumbag who summoned the Hellhound. Now the campers are starting to take sides. It's shaping up like the Trojan War all over again. Aphrodite, Ares, and Apollo are backing Poseidon, more or less, and Athena is backing Zeus. I shudder to think that Clarissa's cabin would ever be on my dad's side for anything. And in the next stall, I heard Annabeth and some guy arguing with each other. Then the music's volume decreased dramatically. So what's your status? Luke asked me. Chiron will be sorry. He missed you. I wish I could be there, Luke told me. We can't help much from here, I'm afraid. But listen, it had to be Hades who took the Master Bolt. He was there at Olympus at the winter solstice. I was chaperoning a field trip, and we saw him. But Chiron said the gods can't take each other's magic items directly. That's true, Luke said, looking troubled. Still, Hades has the Helm of Darkness. How could anybody else sneak into the throne room and steal the Master Bolt? He'd have to be invisible. We were both silent until Luke seemed to realize what he'd said. Oh, hey, he protested. I didn't mean Annabeth. She and I have known each other forever. She would never... she's like a little sister to me. So, if you've noticed, whenever Luke is around or wants to talk to Percy, Annabeth, or Grover, Annabeth gets a little nervous, a little jittery. She seems very confident otherwise, but I think she might like Luke a little bit. An interesting part in that quote is Luke referring to a scumbag who probably summoned the Hellhound. So it's curious his choice of language and words there. So just remember that for later on. Now, another thing Luke asks is Percy wearing those shoes he gave him? And Percy's like, oh, yeah, they're great. Not saying he gave them to Grover. And in fact, Grover just loves those shoes and he's very good with them. Now, if you remember, it wasn't such a good idea for Percy to take the flying shoes because Zeus was quite upset at Percy. And if he ever went into the sky or above ground, he would be at the mercy of Zeus. So they finish at the car wash and they're hungry. So they decide to go to a diner and eat. And they're sitting in the booth, and then the waitress comes and goes, "Can you pay for this?" Because they probably look pretty messy, kind of dirty, homeless looking maybe. And so she's just wondering how they're going to pay. And all of a sudden they hear a loud motorcycle coming outside of the diner. And this is a great description of the motorcycle and the noise. Grover's lower lip quivered. I was afraid he would start bleeding or worse, start eating the linoleum. Annabeth looked ready to pass out from hunger. I was trying to think up a sob story for the waitress when a rumble shook the whole building. A motorcycle the size of a baby elephant had pulled up to the curb. All conversation in the diner stopped. The motorcycle's headlights glared red. Its gas tank had flames painted on it, and a shotgun holster riveted to either side, complete with shotguns. The seat was leather, but the leather that looked like, well, Caucasian human skin. The guy on the motorbike would have made pro wrestlers run for mama. He dressed in a red muscle shirt and black jeans and a black leather duster, with a hunting knife strapped to his thigh. He wore red wraparound shades, and he had the cruelest, most brutal face I'd ever seen. Handsome, I guess, but wicked, with an oily black crew cut and cheeks that were scarred from many, many fights. The weird thing was, I felt like I'd seen his face somewhere before. So the biker comes in and he said he'll pay for their meals. And all of a sudden you see Percy becoming quite almost rude, giving him a bit of attitude, like not liking this guy. And he guesses correctly that the big biker is Clarissa's dad. Now, I could tell you who Clarissa's dad is, but I think you'll figure out from the chapter who this gentleman is. And he just loves the United States, and he says it's the best place since Sparta. And Sparta was a very military-orientated city in ancient Greece. So, another little bit to read for you here. So he's talking about finding, setting out a search party. So Zeus sent his best out looking for it. Apollo, Athena, Artemis, and me, naturally. If I couldn't sniff out a weapon that powerful, he licked his lips as if the very thought of the master bolt made him hungry. Well, if I couldn't find it, you got no hope. Nevertheless, I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. Your dad and I go way back. After all, I'm the one who told him my suspicions about old corpse breath. You told him Hades stole the bolt? So kind of interesting how how Ares is kind of stirring the pot here, but of course he's the god of war. He likes conflict. So he comes there and talks to the kids and says, you know, I have a little job for you. I want you to go to the water park and go to the Tunnel of Love ride, and you've got to find something for me. And here we go. So after Ares kind of leaves, Percy's thinking, I realized Ares must love to mess with people's emotion. That was his power, cranking up the passions so badly they clouded your ability to think. So he gets really under people's skin. So Percy's wondering, why is Ares even asking us to go find this? But Annabeth goes, Ares has strength. That's all he has. And even strength has to bow to wisdom sometimes. So if you remember, Athena's the goddess of wisdom, as well as war, planning war more than Hades. So they're going to be going to this water park. And they're talking and talking as they're going, and they're finding out Ares had a girlfriend. And his girlfriend was Aphrodite. And if you don't know, Aphrodite is the goddess of love and beauty. She thinks she's the most gorgeous god. And she's married to Hephaestus. And Hephaestus is the god of like making things and not the most handsome fellow. But when they get to the water park, they get to find some clean clothes. There was the gift shop, not open, the water park was closed, and the stuff was left there. So they got all kinds of new clothes, clean clothes, and some extras since they lost all their stuff. So here's a little story about Athena and Hephaestus and Ares. So he caught them together once. I mean, literally caught them in a golden net and invited all the gods to come and laugh at them. Hephaestus is always trying to embarrass them. That's why they meet in out-of-the-way places like, and she stops looking straight ahead, like that. In front of us was an empty pool. That would have been awesome for skateboarding. It was about 50 yards across and shaped like a bowl. So when they get there, they see at the bottom of the pool near one of the boats for the Tunnel of Love ride is Ares' shield. So they're like, okay, I guess we've got to go down. And as they're going down, they're getting this sense of, we think we're going to be in trouble here. And they want Grover to stay, not come down, because he's got the flying shoes and he could be watching to make sure they're safe. So they get the shield, and then they realize, they see this Greek letter. And they're wondering, gee, what does that mean? What does this mean? And then all of a sudden it clicks in. The Greek letter they see is the Greek letter Eta. And that is H in our alphabet. And the trap has been set by Hephaestus. Okay, so there's mechanical spiders coming around. They have cupids around the would-be pool with cameras on, and they're broadcasting live to Olympus. And Percy, he is able to, from the water pipes, get water flowing. He does damage most of the spiders, but he's able to get the water to push them out with the little boat. And Annabeth calls, or she figures out when is the best time for them to jump. She jumps and they go flying, and just before they cleared the fence, and just before they were going to be hitting asphalt, Grover comes by and grabs them, and they fall nicely to the ground. And that's the chapter. So if you're thinking of a few symbols, you could use Ares' shield, you could use spiders, the boat, the big motorcycle, a t-shirt from the water park, cheeseburger. So think about one of those that would basically fit the chapter, and think about the colors that you're going to use to represent the emotions. Because there's anger, there's jealousy if you think of Hephaestus, relief once they rescue the shield. So just think of the important parts. And there's a lot of good quotes in this chapter, especially you could be looking at what Ares is talking about, the lightning bolt, the story about Hephaestus and Aphrodite. So a lot of good things from this chapter. I know this is a long summary, but need to cover it. Okay, so that's that. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and waiting for chapter 16. All right, thank you very much.